We're one of those teams that believe we can be, if not the best, one of the best defensive teams in this league.
Morant with a running start. Elevate! Oh, it dunks! Oh, my goodness! Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone! Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it! A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance. Adams going long. Morant! Oh! He hit it! Ja Morant, insanity!
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. This episode, we're going to talk about Grizzlies Media Day, which occurred on Monday. I'm going to give you the news we got from that and some of my takeaways. I think going in, we had a couple of big questions that we thought would be answered. I think one of them was. One of them we got some info on. And then we also just got a lot of entertainment and fun sound bites from our Grizzlies players. I'll break all of that down in just a second. Just first, though, I have to tell you that today's episode is brought to you once again by Underdog Fantasy. If you want to try out Underdog Fantasy right now, is a great time to do it. You have until Wednesday, October 4th, to take advantage of their massive new user deposit boost. They will match your opening deposit up to $500 if you use promo code FBBF or click the link in this episode's description. So there's never been a better time to sign up. It's totally legal in almost every U.S. state. So try out Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code FBBF. Okay, the two big things that we wanted to find out going into Media Day, it was one, what are the details of Ja Morant's suspension? And then two, what's up with Steven Adams and his knee and his health. I think the third one that we're going to find out during training camp is like who's going to be the fifth starter. And we got no information, obviously, about who the fifth starter is going to be from talking to the players and Taylor Jenkins. I mean, maybe we can draw like conclusions based on how people reacted. And I'll allow it. We'll do that in just a second. But the big news, I think, first of all, we found out actually about 30 minutes before Media Day even kicked off, Taylor Jenkins went on Grind City Media's YouTube channel and was talking about the details of Ja Morant's suspension. And we find out that, yes, indeed, Ja Morant is allowed to fully practice with the team. He is allowed to fully participate in training camp. Of course, he's not playing in preseason games, but he's able to fully integrate with the team. He also is available to travel with the team. I thought that was notable. That was interesting. That's not something that I'd really thought through or thought was a possibility. I know when the league punished Ja Morant that it did seem like the best thing to probably keep Ja Morant on the straight and narrow, so to speak, was probably to allow him to be involved with basketball stuff. Like telling a guy that you're like, hey, we need you to have better behavior and make better choices. Oh, and by the way, go just be by yourself, not around your team for several months. That doesn't seem to make any sense. So the league, I guess, saw it the same way. We don't know whether or not this is something that Grizzlies requested. Zach Kleiman was asked if the Grizzlies specifically asked the NBA for the ability to have Ja travel, and Zach said, we're keeping all that stuff behind closed doors, not giving you any insight into what those dialogues looked like. But Ja Morant is going to be around the team. He just can't, again, participate in public basketball activities, can't participate in the games, but he will be there practicing with everyone. He will be there on the road, I guess, whenever he wants to be. Whether or not they require him to come, who knows? But I'd imagine he's going to be around the team constantly while he is suspended. Now, the other big news, of course, is Steven Adams and his health and how kind of not great the Grizzlies looked without Steven Adams last year. He was a crucial cog to their defense, to their rebounding, to their offensive rebounding, to their second chance points. Like, he made a big impact on their offense. They need his screens. And passing to go along with that offensive rebounding. And so we were curious, like, if he's going to be okay. And I'll say we didn't get a ton of clarity on the state of his health. First of all, Zach Kleiman says he has the green light for live play, but they're going to bring him along slowly. There's going to be a slow ramp-up period. Drew Hill from the Daily Memphian asked Steven, could you play today? Are you good to go right now? And Steven had a good response. He was just saying it would be irresponsible of him to say yes, because it's a journey. He has to load up. He has to get his body prepared. Like, what's the point, Steven said, of just playing one game? He has to play 82 games, and so it will be a ramp-up period. So I know we were hoping for maybe a, yes, I'm totally great. We did not get that. We got the news that he's cleared for activity, but they're going to come along slowly. They're going to add little by little until he is available to go. Steven Adams said it was frustrating, of course, that there were some complications with the knee thing, and every injury is unique and different, and so that is just something that they're going to deal with. And as Grizzlies fans, we hope, of course, Steven Adams will be able to get that loading up for his knee where he's able to participate fully once the regular season starts. As far as other news from, like, Zach Kleiman, who started off media day, he gave us that update on Steven Adams, and then Steven, of course, spoke with the media there in Memphis. He talked about Brandon Clark. He said Brandon Clark had a cleanup of the Achilles where he said they would tighten some things, which I don't know if that was just like a car mechanic metaphor, but they said that Brandon Clark had some things cleaned up with the Achilles repair. When they spoke with the medical teams and the doctors, they thought that was the best decision for long-term recovery. And Zach Kleiman said that would not affect the timetable of his return. However, reading between the lines, I think over the summer, Zach Kleiman was like, oh yeah, we're excited about his recovery. It's going great. We look forward to him rejoining the team. And then on this one, on media day, Zach Kleiman's like, if he's not ready to go, we're not going to push him. We're going to take it along slowly. If he misses the year, that's something that could happen. So again, this is just reading between the lines, not actually what they said. It sounded like maybe the odds of Brandon Clark playing are not that great. Of course, I've always been operating under I'd be real surprised if Brandon Clark kind of came back and played this season. Taylor Jenkins, he was talking about he wanted to change some things. He thought he'd done some reflection, and he thought he needed to go about several things a little bit differently. He said his core principles are going to be the same, but he reflected on some areas he can improve and identified things he wants to do better and differently. He specified he wants to teach the offense. They're going to teach the offense differently this year. Also, of course, Darko Rajakovic is now with the Raptors. They've brought in Patrick St. Andrews from the Bucks to kind of be the offensive coach or the offensive coordinator. And so the offense will be a little bit different. He talked about teaching the half-court offense a little bit differently. He said in regards to lineups, he said about the starting lineup, they're going to try a lot of different starting lineups and a lot of different lineup combinations in the preseason. But he also said in previous years, he had been too stubborn and close-minded. And I'm very curious what that means. I mean, I don't know. Was he stubborn? Like, the first thing that comes to my mind was he didn't like playing big. Years past, they wouldn't try like Santi at the 3 or Kyle Anderson at the 3. It seems like when things got tough, he kind of favored going smaller. But I don't know what that actually means. It's a pretty interesting thing to hear the coach say. He said it was going to be a bit of a challenge to have Marcus Smart be both the primary offensive initiator and the primary defender. That's something that will be new that they'll have to deal with as the coaching staff as they endure the first 25 games of the season without Ja Morant. This might only appeal to me, but one thing that was different about Taylor Jenkins was he wore a suit for media day. Now, he absolutely could have had an engagement right after media day, and he was wearing like a black suit and a black tie. Maybe he had somewhere formal to go, but part of me thinks And when he's talking about, I want to do things differently, I was kind of like, oh yeah, cool. No more pullovers. Let's get rid of the pullovers. I like my professional basketball coaches to be wearing suits, which is probably a very odd opinion for someone like me who's not into fashion or dressing well at all. But I guess it's my preference that the coaches dress up. And so I kind of liked it. I like the idea of like, hey, we're turning a new page. I'm doing some things differently. And guess what? I'm going to bring a more formal attitude or a more serious attitude into what we have going on here. Again, that probably only appeals to me. But I noticed it and thought it was interesting. Now, as far as some of the other quotes from players or other like big picture things that we're interested in, that fifth starter thing, I think our candidates, we know it's probably going to be Zaire Williams or Luke Kennard or David Roddy or maybe Jake LaRavia or a deep long shot like Santi at the 3 or Vince Williams Jr. I don't think those are really going to be an option. Santi was asked what he thought about playing the 3, and he said he considered himself to be more of a natural 4, although he's fine with sliding up between 3, 4, and 5. He just focuses on trying to be versatile. Like Luke Kennard was asked about it. Luke Kennard said he doesn't care if he starts or comes off the bench. And again, like I read into that, maybe this is too much. I read into it like, all right, he's probably coming off the bench still. They're going to keep him in that 6th-man role. And that makes sense to me. I like it. Zaire, I think, grabbed a lot of the headlines just because I felt like he was prominent. He was very outspoken. He mentioned both on the Grind City Media shows and in the actual media session with the reporters. He's just like, no one's working harder than me. I'm very confident in all the stuff I'm going to be doing. He gave himself some goals of playing all 82 games and making all defensive team, which, I mean, go get it, man. Those are some lofty goals for Zaire Williams, but you heard a lot of people talking about how just the coaches and the other players about like Zaire. Jaron said he looked amazing in the pickup games they've been playing and the runs they've been doing in the last week. And they just talk about the versatility of Zaire being 6'9", 6'10" or so, being able to be a playmaker, be a defender, be a shooter. And so maybe like my takeaway was, okay, Zaire, I think, has a good shot at being opening night starter. I think when I like handicapped who I thought was going to be the starter months ago on an episode, I put Zaire as maybe the favorite just because I thought it makes sense. Just give it a try. See what happens. I also said at the very least, you got to find out. Just this year, you have to know if he's anything. So, man, just throw him out there. Let's see what happens. Now, Roddy's probably the other guy who I think, has a good shot at being that starter. Roddy just honestly didn't give me that much for media day. Nothing he said really kind of grabbed me. So like maybe he could have that position. He knows it's an opportunity. I mean, Conchar, I haven't mentioned Conchar, and that's a mistake by me. Conchar absolutely could be in that conversation. He started games last year. I mean, he was the opening night starter last year with Dylan Brooks unavailable. Conchar provides that defense. When Taylor Jenkins was asked, what are they looking for in that starting 3, he specifically mentioned defense. And so that gives John Conchar a great opportunity. Conchar was asked about what he's looking forward to in training camp, and he basically said, like, there's an open spot at the 3, and, like, I'm excited to compete for that. So I think Conchar has a great, very strong opportunity to seize that role and maybe be the starter. Jake LaRavia, he said the thing that will keep him on the court is defense, and he said the offense will take care of itself. He also said he was one of the best shooters in the galaxy, although that was kind of, Santi was saying the word galaxy a lot, and then Jake picked it up. I don't know if they were playing off the whole brouhaha this summer over NBA champs calling themselves world champs, and so they didn't want to say the best shooter in the world. They started saying best shooter in the galaxy, so he was sort of joking, but Jake said that defense is what he needs to earn his minutes with, and then the offense will take care of himself or take care of itself, and he can, be a contributor in that way. But I think reading between the lines now, my assessment of what everyone said at Media Day is I would put the opening night starter probably between Zaire and Conchar and Roddy, and it's made me start thinking they will leave Luke Kennard in that bench role as like a super 6th man. Now, Derrick Rose was kind of a highlight of the media day. Of course, he's going to get a lot of attention with his return to Memphis after his college experience in Memphis. And he gave a lot of interesting quotes. First of all, when asked about how he ended up on the Grizzlies, he said last year he had reached out to Tony Allen to try to get Ja Morant and T. Morant's number. So he wanted to make a connection there. So that was like a first kind of step in him ending up back on the Grizzlies. And then the agent kind of came to him with like, all right, this could be an option. And Derrick Rose said he never considered coming back to Memphis. He talked a lot about his maturity and just the way he's grown as a person. And he talked a lot about how, you know, his growth. It was a very thoughtful response he gave about why he wanted to come back to the Grizzlies. So I'm going to play that audio right now so you can hear what he said when he said, what's it like, basically. He was asked, what's it like to have Memphis on his jersey once again?
It's pretty cool, but I probably won't understand like the whole totality of this until after I get done playing. Like I said, one of the reasons why I wanted to come back, I played sixth grade nationals here. We played against the Memphis Magic. We lost in the sixth grade championship. USA basketball was in Memphis, 17. We ended up 16, 17-year-olds. We ended up playing here. For some reason, it was in Memphis. I ended up signing to Memphis, even though I was a Nike kid and it was an Adidas school. It was just a feel. Like at that time, I felt like the team was only missing a point guard, and that's what made me go there. And thank God it worked out. And just like in New York, in a way where when I first went to New York, I wasn't ready, and they saw me as a kid. And I was able to mend that relationship that I had with New York, with me leaving, with me going through a rape case, all that. People tend to like don't look at that no more. I'm trying to do the same thing here, where coming here right after I got drafted, it was the gang sign. And right after that was the ACT. Now you seeing a different Derrick, where I'm 34, I have 3 kids, and I'm married. So if anything, you see growth. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come back.
So Derrick Rose, as this, we think of him as a veteran leader. He talks again about his experiences, and he wants to share that with the team. But he also specifically said he's not here to babysit. He's not here to take care of Ja Morant. He's here to challenge Ja Morant on the basketball court. He's here to help Ja Morant on the basketball court. He's here to contribute to winning. He says he wants to push Ja because it's not often as an NBA player you get to play somebody who has a very similar playing style as you. Derrick Rose, of course, has been compared to Ja Morant a lot, or Ja Morant's been compared to Derrick Rose a lot. Just explosive attacking guards, all NBA level. Of course, Derrick Rose won the MVP on the Bulls. And so Derrick Rose is here to help out. He also said that he's fresh. He basically said he saved his body by not playing last year. He was not hurt. The Knicks just chose not to play him. And so Derrick Rose talking about all the things he can bring to the team. By the way, speaking of not hurt, Zach Kleiman specified about Zaire Williams that he's not hurt. He was not injured. They said this a couple of times. He was not injured over the summer. He didn't play in Summer League. Zaire didn't play in Summer League because he was working on improving the strength of his lower body to hopefully reduce the recurrence of knee tendinitis. He did deal with the knee tendinitis last year during the season. Of course, there was always those talks about like he's having growing pains. He's growing too big and his knees are hurting. But he did deal with tendinitis, but he was healthy at the end of last year. Zach Kleiman specified that career-high scoring and assist game from the final game of the regular season. Of course, we'll call that the Junior Lofton game against the Thunder. He was healthy then. He was not injured all summer. They just decided the offseason for Zaire should be spent strengthening his legs, doing exercises to hopefully keep the tendinitis away so it doesn't reoccur this year. But that, I guess, was some of the notable news from Media Day. Now, the other big addition to the team, besides Derrick Rose, was Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart echoed Also, what Derrick Rose said about he's not here to babysit. He's here to challenge the guys. He's here to help out. He's here to set a tone in practice, and he's just here to contribute to winning. He likes it when people doubt him. He said people have been doubting him his whole career, telling him he's too small, his wingspan is too short. But he's going to win over the doubters, and also he said he's going to help out playing with Jaren Jackson Jr. He said, first of all, they're going to have a great defense. He doesn't see any reason why they wouldn't have the best defense in the NBA. He also said he's going to keep Jaren Jackson Jr. out of foul trouble. He says they've been joking about that since he got here. So he looks forward to helping the team in that way, both setting a tone in practice, going to head-to-head with Desmond Bane. He thinks he and Bane are going to have a tremendous competition in training camp as those guys have to match up with each other. He thinks they will both handle the ball handling duties while Ja Morant is suspended. So Marcus Smart obviously excited and ready to get to work for the Grizzlies. Desmond Bane, he was asked what he needs to work on or what he had been thinking about like improving this season. And he mentioned cardio. He was saying that was an area where he could definitely improve. When you think about some of the best guards in the NBA, like Steph Curry, he thought maybe an area of improvement for him was just to get more fit so he could run around. And I'm putting in, that means play even more minutes possibly, but he was saying he needs to work on his cardio. He was joking around about how he and Luke Kennard have been having shooting competitions this summer. He said Kennard is down. He also said Kennard is not trustworthy. When you talk about these things, he did mention they both measured 6'5" 3/4. I'm guessing that's with shoes on, but saying that Luke Kennard acting like he was taller than him or something. Luke Kennard, again, I mentioned like he said he was okay with whatever role he had. The rest of it was kind of real standard. Memphis fans are the greatest in the world. Happy to be here, have a full season with the team. Excited to bring that offensive punch, that kind of thing. Jaren Jackson Jr., he said, quote, vacation sucked. I guess that was because it sort of was implied because he just wanted to be back to basketball. He mentioned that he needed to rebound better this season. And now Steven Adams was actually asked about Jaren's rebounding and especially about his play in FIBA. Steven, of course, claimed he didn't watch any of FIBA outside of the New Zealand versus USA game. He said after USA beat New Zealand, he didn't watch anymore. But Steven went on a little rant or an explanation about how like Jaren's rebounding numbers, a lot of it's because of his role. And I thought that was interesting. It's stuff we've said before on the show that like Jaren's blocking shots and guarding on the perimeter. He's just not racking up rebounds. So here's Steven's explanation in the typical Steven Adams tone.
I'll give you a rundown on like say rebounding. So like depends on like say your defensive structure. If they're using a player like you're switching a lot, the player will be on a perimeter. You probably won't get as many rebounds. You know what I'm saying? So like there's the strategy part of it too. If you're trying to get that number, you know what I mean. If you're like, oh, this player needs to get his numbers up, there's multiple ways in how you can accomplish that. You know, sometimes the emphasis is more on the defensive end. Want him to go block shots and all that sort of stuff. If he's going to go block shots, he ain't going to get the rebound. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's that part. It's not like he could do everything. You can't. Yeah, you have to, it's a give or take. You have to minimize one of the other ones to get some of the other. But I ain't excusing him. Like, I don't know. I don't watch any film, mate. Just giving you just making it up. I read it on Twitter just now. Yeah. Sounded good though, eh? Yeah. Don't lie.
So while that wasn't an exact breakdown of why Jaren is thought of as an underwhelming rebounder, there's a lot of truth to it. Again, I maintained Jaren's an okay rebounder. If he's your only five and there's no other good rebounders on the court together, well, he's going to look even worse at the rebounding. Steven also, by the way, was asked about the banking in free throws, that strategy that some Korean basketball players did. His response was quite hilarious. And again, in a way only Steven Adams can answer. Here's that response.
Korean basketball players shooting free throws bank style. Have you seen that? And if so, have you thought about trying that technique?
Try it. I've done it unintentionally. It's worked. It's worked a couple times. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. He was Korean?
Pardon?
He was Korean?
Yes.
North or south?
I'm assuming
Too
south.
soon. Yeah, too sober. Sorry, guys.
So Steven Adams remains one of the highlights of all media engagements. Finally, let's hit some of these other players. Like Jacob Gilyard said, unsurprisingly, he said he's hoping to make an impact and get on the court while Ja Morant is suspended. I think he's going to be competing with Shaq Harrison and Michael Mulder, who I broke down in Monday's episode that the Grizzlies just signed. So, I think there's going to be a very tight competition for being able to get on the court, and it seems like a challenge for Gilyard, but he's been excellent on the hustle. So, again, maybe he holds on to that two-way spot and gets first crack at it in games where Derrick Rose is unavailable or maybe Marcus Smart or Desmond Bane misses. Gigi Jackson, he said a lot of the stuff you kind of like to hear, just talking about he wants to be coachable. He's looking forward to finding his role. He said acclimating to the play with the Grizzlies players. I'm assuming this is in the runs they've been doing. He said acclimating has been tough because he's accustomed to getting the ball and then doing moves and doing stuff. And he here needs to be swinging the ball and rotating. So he said that's going to be an adjustment period. But again, it's all that kind of stuff where it's it comes across as humble, it comes across as open-minded and saying listen, I got a lot to learn. I'm excited to do it. I'm excited for my opportunities. I just got to find out how I can fit in. So he, I guess, mastered the pretty straightforward press conference answers. Junior Lofton didn't really say a whole bunch other than he wished his face scan on 2K was on the way soon, because apparently the 2K version of Kenny Lofton Jr. doesn't look right at all. Xavier Tillman saying he doesn't really, put pressure on himself and worry about a contract year or anything. He knows he's put the work in, so he's just going to let that take care of itself. And I'm trying to see if there's any other interesting takeaways from Grizzlies Media Day. If you want to check out all of the Media Day sessions where the players were asked all their questions, you can do that on the Grizzlies YouTube page. It's all there. A lot of it, again, pretty rote and cliche stuff. So I don't know if there is any more that I'm missing. I guess one thing we can close the show on is there was a leak of the Grizzlies' new city jersey. There was a leaked photo of Ja Morant taking a promotional photo in a new jersey, and it's a black jersey. If you're on YouTube right now, I'll show you the both a mock-up of what it looks like and then the actual photo taken from Grizzlies Media Day. It's a black jersey, as the city jerseys have been, a darker black jersey, and it has that M-E-M, where it's the three lines, the vertical three lines for the M's and the horizontal three lines for the E's. It's a little bit plain, but it's a black jersey. Looks pretty solid with gold numbers on there. So that's probably our first glimpse that we've finally gotten of what the Grizzlies city jersey is going to be. It could be worse, because I've seen a lot of other city jerseys that in my opinion, again, one guy's just very subjective opinion. Some of the other city jerseys I've seen are terrible. So this is a very nice, classic, clean black jersey. I like it just fine. And that, I think, is all of the news and information and takeaways I had from Grizzlies Media Day. If you have other takeaways that you thought were notable, by all means, please let me know what those are. Anyways, thanks for listening. If you want to support this show and also play fantasy basketball with me, join me over at patreon.com/fastbreak. Breakfast. Over there, you can sign up for both a negative fantasy league and a regular fantasy basketball league. And also, you get bonus content. You can join my Slack channel. We have a Grits and Grinds Slack channel. In that, all of that happens at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Remember that promo code at Underdog Fantasy, FBBF, as in Fast Break Breakfast. All right. Hope you guys have a great Tuesday. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.